The train didn't ease into the station. It tore through it like it didn't belong there, like it wanted to keep going but had been forced to stop. Metal screaming against metal beneath a sky that stretched too far in every direction, wide and empty in a way that made everything feel smaller, including her. And when the doors finally opened, she didn't step down with anticipation or relief. She stepped down like someone walking into something already decided for her, her grip tight on a worn suitcase that had seen too much, her hands trembling despite her effort to stay steady, her eyes already glassy before her boots even met the dry, unfamiliar ground, and the people gathered there, because there were always people watching, didn't see her as a person arriving, didn't see a future beginning. They saw a transaction, a quiet exchange where survival had replaced anything resembling love. And among all of them stood a man who didn't move, didn't call out, didn't lift a hand in greeting. He simply watched her, still and unreadable, like he could already see what no one else noticed, like he could look past the dress, past the expectation, and straight into the fear she was trying and failing to keep hidden. He wasn't what she imagined either. Not the man from the letters, not the soft promises written carefully between polite lines and chosen words, because the man standing there in the dust looked carved out of silence itself, broad-shouldered, sun-worn, and unmoving like the land behind him. And when their eyes finally met, she was the first to look away, because there was something about the way he looked at her that unsettled her. Not judgment, not warmth, just understanding, the kind that made her chest tighten without warning. And when he finally stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate, tipping his hat just enough to acknowledge her, he didn't greet her like a man meeting his bride. He spoke like someone approaching something fragile, something already close to breaking, careful and measured, like he didn't want to make the wrong move. And the silence between them stretched longer than it should have, heavy with everything left unsaid. "You don't have to pretend," he said quietly. His voice was low, meant only for her. And it wasn't what she expected. Not a welcome, not a claim, not even reassurance in the way she thought it would come. Just that one sentence, simple but devastating. And it struck deeper than anything else could have, because pretending was all she had prepared for, pretending to be strong, pretending to be hopeful, pretending this wasn't the final place she had ended up after everything else had failed her. And standing there in a town that didn't know her name, she felt something inside her crack under the weight of it all, something she had been holding together for far too long. But she didn't fall apart. Not there. Not in front of all those watching eyes. Instead, she nodded stiffly, forcing everything back down, because even if he saw through her, she wasn't ready to be seen. The house sat alone against an endless horizon, nothing more than a simple wooden structure surrounded by too much open land. But it was quiet, and that quiet felt heavier than anything she had left behind. Because there were no distractions here, no crowds to disappear into, no noise to hide inside, just space, too much space, and a man who spoke less than the wind itself. And as the days passed, she kept waiting for something to change, for him to expect something from her, to remind her of the arrangement that had brought her there. But he didn't. He moved around her like she was something delicate but not unwanted, giving her space, giving her time. And it unsettled her in ways she didn't understand, because kindness without conditions felt unfamiliar, and unfamiliar felt dangerous. Still, she tried to play her part. She cooked meals she barely touched, kept the house in order, spoke only when necessary, smiled when she didn't feel it. Because that's what she believed was expected, that's what survival had taught her. But every forced gesture, every quiet nod felt heavier under his gaze, not accusing, Not cold, just aware, and it made something in her chest tighten, because he wasn't fooled, not even for a moment, and yet he never said anything, never pushed her, never forced her to stop. Until one evening, when the sky burned with shades of orange and gold, and she stood outside pretending again, pretending to admire something she didn't feel, he finally broke the silence. "You can stop." His voice cut through the quiet, calm but certain. She froze instantly, her hands gripping the railing as if it was the only thing keeping her steady, her back still turned to him, because stopping meant admitting, and admitting meant everything unraveling at once. And for a moment she said nothing, holding on to the last pieces of control she had left. But then he stepped closer, not too close, never too close, and spoke again, softer this time. "Whatever you think I expect, you're wrong." And in that moment, something shifted, not all at once, but enough. Because breaking doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens slowly, in small fractures that spread until there's nothing left holding things together. And for her, it started quietly, with a single tear she couldn't stop as she stood alone in the kitchen, staring into nothing, feeling everything she had tried to ignore. And when he walked in, he didn't question her, didn't ask what was wrong, didn't try to fix anything. He just stood there, present and steady, exactly as he had been from the beginning. And that presence, silent and unwavering, became the one thing she couldn't fight against anymore. "I can't do this," she whispered. And once the words came out, they didn't stop. Everything followed. Fear, exhaustion, grief. All of it spilling out at once, raw and unfiltered, tangled together until she couldn't separate one feeling from another. And she expected him to react, to pull away, to regret everything, to remind her why she was there. But he didn't. He stayed exactly where he was, listening, truly listening, like her words mattered, like she mattered. And when she finally broke completely, when she couldn't hold anything back anymore, he stepped forward, not to take control, not to claim anything, but simply to be there. "You're not here because you owe me anything," he said quietly. "You're here because you needed somewhere to land." And that was it. That was the moment everything changed. Because for the first time since she arrived, she believed him. Morning came differently after that. Not lighter, not easier, but quieter in a way that didn't press so heavily against her chest. And for the first time, she didn't wake with that sharp panic of not knowing where she was or why she had stayed. Instead, there was a stillness inside her, fragile but real, like something had settled after a storm that hadn't fully passed yet. And as she sat there staring at her hands, she realized something that unsettled her more than fear ever had. She didn't want to run, not immediately, and that felt dangerous, because staying meant trusting. He didn't mention the night before, not once, and that silence wasn't avoidance, it was respect, the kind she had never known before. And when he placed a cup of coffee beside her without a word, it wasn't an expectation or a reminder of anything. It was simply an offering, and she hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing the warmth as if testing whether it was real. And when she looked up at him, searching for something, he only gave a small nod, like he understood everything she couldn't say. Later, standing outside again, the horizon didn't feel the same. Still endless, still unfamiliar, but no longer suffocating. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted quietly. "You don't have to know," he replied. "You just have to decide if you want to try." And for the first time, She chose to stay. But peace doesn't last for people who aren't used to it. At first it was small, a feeling she couldn't quite place, a tension that settled quietly in her chest, like something unseen had shifted, and she tried to ignore it, tried to tell herself it was just habit, just the echo of a life where danger was always close behind. But it didn't fade. It grew, slowly tightening around her thoughts, creeping into her sleep, turning even the quietest moments into something fragile. She started watching the horizon again, not out of curiosity, but fear. He noticed. Of course he did. "You're waiting for something," he said one evening. "Not a question, a truth." "They might find me," she admitted. The words slipped out before she could stop them, and once they were spoken, there was no taking them back. She expected him to step away, but he didn't. "Then they'll have to go through me first," he said. Simple, certain. And something inside her shifted again. Not fear this time. Something deeper. The days that followed changed. Not because the fear disappeared, but because it wasn't hers alone anymore. And that made all the difference. Because for the first time, she wasn't facing the unknown by herself. And he didn't overwhelm her with protection or promises. He simply stood beside her, steady and unshaken, like the ground itself wouldn't move beneath her feet. And then one night, it happened. A sound in the distance. Soft, barely there. But enough. She froze instantly. Before she could react, he was already there, stepping in front of her without hesitation, solid and unyielding. "Ready. You don't have to run anymore," he said quietly. And this time, she believed him. Not because the danger was gone, but because she wasn't the same person anymore. And standing there behind him, no longer hiding, no longer pretending, she realized something that frightened her more than anything before. She wasn't staying because she had nowhere else to go. She was staying because she wanted to.